Hey, thank you very much for checking out the show. Today we're doing a tale of 3 fishes. I've got perch, salmon, and cod, and we're gonna do them baked. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get started with a barley pilaf. We're going to make a little bit of a pilaf for a side as to go along with the fish. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pan going here, probably about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And in this pan, in this bowl here, I've got about 2 stalks of celery, 1 carrot, and a small onion. We're going to saute that up in the oil. We're going to let that kind of sweat down just a little bit. So along with this, I'm going to add some fresh minced garlic, and we'll add probably about a good tablespoon of minced garlic. That's sauteing up a little bit. I want to get this to brown up in that oil a little bit as well. So I've got a pound of barley here. I'm only going to add probably about half of that because barley is like a rice. It's a whole grain. It's going to double in size as it cooks. So, we're going to saute. We want this to kind of brown up a little bit. It's almost like if you were to make a risotto. You want to get that kind of started to get those kernels browned up a little in that oil. And yes, I'm using metal in a non-stick pan because I'm rugged like that. So what we really want to do is, again, I'm just trying to get a nice toasted color on that barley, and then we're going to add our stock to it. And I've got some tomato product I'm going to add to it as well. I'm going to throw some fresh herbs in there. I have probably about a good heaping tablespoon of fresh minced basil, and same thing with parsley. And you're going to see a lot of herbs today. We're going to use those two a lot. Get them in there and get them to soften up a little. Now we'll add some tomato, and I've got some canned San Marzano. And again, we're probably going to add the whole tomatoes right to it, but we're only going to add about a half a can. And add about half a can of that stock to it as well. And you can reserve the other half for later, because I'm sure you'll find something that you can use it in for later. And you can hear that sizzle. What's happening there is that liquid hit those kernels, and they're saying, oh, holy smokes. And then I've got some chicken stock here, and I have a lot. I got 1.5 quarts here. We're not going to need this much. And you can use your favorite box chicken stock. You can make your own with base. You can use bouillon. There's a lot of different things you can do. But I'm going to kind of eyeball this, and I'll let you know how much I put in at the end. This is one of those things that takes a real long time to cook. So we're going to reduce it down. We're probably going to add some more stock. And I added at that time, I added just about 3/4 of a quart. I'm sorry, 1.5 quarts. 3/4 of what I had in the kettle there. So, and now we'll bring that back up to a boil, and we're going to let it simmer. And it's probably going to take a good 20 to 30 minutes on the stovetop. So we'll let that simmer. So we're going to get right into the fish, and the first one I want to talk about is the cod, because that has the marinade that I started talking about a little bit earlier. And I learned this marinade when I was working in the hotel, and it's great because it was a real busy hotel, and it was really kind of one of those things that you wanted to kind of get it done quick. So it does have quite a few ingredients, but we're gonna go through them, and it's not too bad. So we're going to start with some vegetable oil, and I'm going to start with probably about a cup of vegetable oil.
Why don't you tell us which one's which right here while you're looking at it?
All right, here on the left is the Atlantic salmon. In the middle, I've got 3 pieces of cut cod, and then on the end is the freshwater perch. And we're gonna do a couple different things differently to those. So I added probably about 1.5 cups of vegetable oil. I know that's kind of a lot. We're only marinating 3 pieces, but that's okay. Me and my heavy hand. I've got some Worcestershire sauce, and I'm actually gonna take the cover off because I'm gonna add more than a couple of dashes. I'm gonna add probably about 1/4 cup of Worcestershire sauce right to that. I'm going to add some Old Bay seasoning, probably a good, we'll call it a tablespoon. How's that sound? Tabasco sauce, same thing. I'm going to pop the top off, and I'm going to add probably about 1/2 teaspoon. Lemon, I've got 1/2 of a lemon. I'm going to just get right in there and give it a twist. Yeah, baby, look at all that juice you're getting out of there. So that probably equates to 1/4 cup of fresh lemon juice. You can use it from a bottle if you like. So the last thing I'm gonna add, normally I would add some paprika, but because there's paprika in the edge, I'm just gonna add a good teaspoon of the edge to that. And then I wanna taste it. You know what? It's kind of weak on the Worcestershire, so I'm gonna add a little bit more. I know, who would have thought? I'm gonna add another tablespoon. I'm really trying to look for those flavors to come through. So, there. Nice. Okay, now we're gonna take our fish. I've got about a cup of fresh breadcrumbs here, and then I've got a package of Ritz cracker crumbs. And what I want to do is we're going to take the package of the Ritz crackers, and we're just going to kind of crush them up in our hands like this. And this is my standard mix. I use 1 cup of breadcrumbs, save, to 1 sleeve of Ritz cracker crumbs. And what I do is I mix them together, and that's my standard for all of my seafood. I do a beautiful mix of the two, and I think they both bring something to the table when it comes to flavor. So then I'm just gonna add those right in there, and then they didn't all break up all the way, but you can break them with your hands a little bit more. You just kind of run your hands through it. And what that's gonna do now, and then just kind of mix them together. And I make a killer seafood stuffing that we should do on the show too, that with those two, the breadcrumbs and the crackers mixed together. And the crackers are really gonna help to give it a nice crispness to the fish when it bakes. So, all right. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna give this a quick stir, just to kind of get those flavors up from the bottom. And I'm gonna add a teaspoon of the edge over here as well. And again, that's just our homemade blend for your standard salt, pepper, garlic, and seasoning salt. So we'll mix that up, and now we'll just give this fish a little bit of a bath. And I'm gonna let it set right in there for a little while. Give it a couple minutes in there, let it take a bath. So we're gonna let the cod marinate for just a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about the music you're checking out right now. These are our friends from the UK, they're Ravenface. The track is Be Silent, and it's off their album Divided Kingdom. And they're on tour right now in the UK. We want to wish them the best of luck on their tour, but definitely check these guys out. They're absolutely incredible. This song is awesome. Now let's dig the bottom piece out, because that's where all the love is. So we'll dig the bottom piece out. Look at, you can see all the flavors that are clinging to that. I'm gonna drop it right in there. We're gonna coat it as if we were, doing a piece of fried chicken. And then we'll set it right in the dish. And I got these nice casserole dishes. I picked them up today just for the event. And you can use any kind of baking dish, any oven-safe dish is fine. You want to get something with a little bit of a lip on it though, because we're going to be adding wine and drawn butter, melted butter to it. So you want to definitely make sure you've got enough room so any runoff of the fish, if the fish has any liquid in it, it gives off the liquid. You want to make sure that you have enough room so it doesn't spill all over your oven floor. So, all right, so I've got these 3 pieces breaded, and this is perfect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set these aside. So we've completely breaded the cod. We're gonna set that aside. Now with the perch, let's do this. Let's start to marinate these guys too. We're just gonna give them a little bit of a splash. And this is our house white wine that we're using today. It's the featured one on the show. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I'm just gonna give it a quick drizzle. And I've got some melted butter here. And when you're doing baked fish, it's okay to have a little bit of melted butter on the side. And I'm gonna add, I would say I added maybe 1/4 cup of wine just to splash across the top. And I've got about a pound of fish, pretty much in each one of these. Actually, the salmon is a little bit more than a pound there, but the perch and the cod is about a pound each. And then I'm gonna do something. I wanna take on the perch, I've got a little bit of Parmesan cheese here. I'm just gonna sprinkle a little Parmesan, make it a little cheesy crust on top. And then we're gonna take some of this same breadcrumb and cracker crumb mix that we had. I'm gonna drizzle that right over the top. And on the butter, I'm sorry, I cut myself off. On the butter, I added probably about a tablespoon, maybe a little more than a tablespoon. And we're gonna add, and you can go generous on the breadcrumbs on top too. This is one that's got the skin on the bottom, so you don't necessarily need to bread it all the way, but when you bake it, it's gonna get a nice golden sheen on top. It's gonna be real nice. It's almost like a real casserole. And then with the salmon, I'm just gonna take the salmon and I'm gonna rub some fresh garlic on it. And I'm going to take the edge, and I'm going to sprinkle the edge on it. And I'm going to do probably, oh, I don't know, maybe a dash on each. And this is great too, because if you've ever had, or if you've ever seen salmon au poivre, they'll take peppercorns and they'll rub them right into the salmon and they'll sear it, and then they'll finish it in the oven, right in the pan. But this way here, now what we're going to do is I'm going to do again the same thing. I'm going to take the wine, and I'm going to splash a little bit on top here. And again with the melted butter. And the last thing I want to add to the salmon is a nice fistful of fresh herbs here. We're going to add some fresh basil right to the top. And what we'll do is that'll help to really kind of bring out a sauce in it. It's going to help to make a sauce. And some fresh parsley right on the top. About a tablespoon of each. And as that bakes down now, it's okay if it browns up and gets a little dark, and that's fine, because it's actually the flavors. We're looking for the flavor in the juice that's going to be left in the pan. So now we've got our 3 casseroles here. Now we're going to preheat our oven to about 375, 400, depending on your oven. And we're going to bake them all for probably about 15 to 20 minutes. We'll check them. So let's get that rolling. All right, so we've got the fish out of the oven now. It looks fantastic. We've got our barley ready to plate up. So our next phase is going to be going ahead and plating up the dinner.
Steve, how do you know when the fish is done?
The fish being done, that's a very good question, and we're getting to that right now. We've taken it out of the oven, and the best way to do it is while it's still in the oven, you pull the rack out. You want to give it what I call the press test. And that's when you really get your finger in there. You just kind of give the fish a push, and if the fillets, I don't know, Bob, if you saw that, if the fillets start to separate under the pressure of your finger, when you just give it a light press, that's how you know it's done. And all of them are doing just that. So you don't want to destroy the fish by pressing too hard, but just press on it enough so you can feel it almost starting to separate apart. And that's the time that you want to pull it out. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and plate up. We'll add our barley in there. We'll get this thing rolling. Nice piece of scrod. Oh yeah, baby. Piece of salmon. One of the things I want to talk a little bit about while we're doing this is the salmon. When you buy the salmon fillets, right, if you buy the whole side of the fillet, you can buy the whole piece and usually save yourself a little bit of money. Just be careful and run your fingers down it along the length of it, because sometimes when you buy the whole piece, they leave the bones in, you know, and you'll get a little fillets, little pieces of bone sticking out of it. So just be careful. All right, there we go. So we've got the perch, baked cod, and baked salmon. And now let's add some barley pilaf to the mix. Oh yeah, look at that. Holy smokes. Garnish with a little bit of lemon. The wine that we chose to go along with the fish today is a Matua Sauvignon Blanc, and I believe it's a 2012. I can't see the vintage from here, Bob. I got breadcrumb fingers all over it from when I used it to decorate the fish. I apologize. But it's a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough, and one of the things I really love about it is the citrus that brings out and the fresh, vibrant flavors of it, and the nose. Oh, it's so bright. It's almost orangey, tangerine-y almost. It's really wild, and I think it pairs really nice with the fish. And that being said, I want to say, hey, thank you very much for joining us in our magic, our madness, and our mayhem. We'll see you next time.